Hey, it's Brandon, and we're going to check out time remapping in Adobe Premiere and Adobe After Effects. So let's get started with Premiere. This is my dog. I actually caught her using my iPhone the first time she had caught something or some food or a treat in the air. So this is the first time, and it was caught. So here it is, and I slow it down for you so you can see it even better. Ah, what a good catch. All right, so let's take a look at how I was working with time there. So I'll start by just taking the original the footage that I've got from my iPhone here and make a sequence out of that. And I'll do that by just dragging it over to the new button next to the trash can. And there's my new sequence that has it. And we'll just work with this one so you can just play with this guy right here. Alright, here's what we have. A bunch of extra stuff I want to trim off real quick.
Oh yeah, caught it in midair.
Alright, so I just want to focus on the catch part. So I'm going to scrub till I see just before I start to throw it right there. I'll just trim that off. And then also right after the catch is fine, so I'll just trim that part off as well. And we will work with this time right here. So, alright. So the first thing that we can do is we can use this thing called the rate stretch tool, which is this right here, the rate stretch tool. And if I select that, notice that I can actually drag this out. Usually that would be like bringing out more information, but you'll see this is actually just slowing it down and slowed it down to 34%. So if I watch this, you can see that the whole entire clip is slowed down. So the rate stretch tool is great. You can slow down or speed things up by just the same way you would do trimming. I'm going to undo that, Command Z, Control Z on a PC, and look at how we can work with time in some other ways. So the regular selection tool, and if I select this clip, I don't really need this audio, so I can either lock this clip and then take it out, or I could come down to the sound clip and Control click and unlink. Let's see. Oh, are we linked? Actually, looks like we're not, so if I just delete, there we go, I can just delete that other half. Sometimes these two can be connected together, which I believe they are now. And let's see if I move. Yeah, sure enough, if I select one, I get the other. So with this situation, if I were to try to delete the audio, I can't really get just at the audio. But if I control click here, you can see this is where I can unlink. And now the audio and video clips are no longer connected, so it's easy enough for me to just delete that clip. Okay, let's focus on the visual here and get a little bit larger. Let's drag this down so we can see the clip a little bit better, and also stretch this out a little bit so we can, there we go. Alright, so if we want to work with this, right now we just have constant speed, and when we use the rate stretch tool, we still just affected constant speed. So in other words, we made it 50% slower, 50% faster. But if we wanted to have variable speed, that's what we can look at here. If I control click on this and go to show clip keyframes, and then over to time remapping, and then speed. If I select that, now we can see the keyframes and control keyframes to change our speed. We can also see this in the effects control. So here you can see time remapping and the speed. Right now nothing happens, even though we've enabled the keyframes. There hasn't been a keyframe set. So everything's just at 100%. Now we could work with the keyframes like we have before up here or down here. We can use the command or control key and click once. That actually makes a keyframe. So now I've indicated a keyframe, and if I grab this other side and drag it down, this is saying that at this area the speed is the normal speed, and at this area we've dropped it way down and slowed things down. So if I look, there's the food falling, and right about here it should really slow down. Let's watch this real quickly. There it goes. It slows down right away at that one point. Now notice also by changing the speed here, I changed the full duration. So if I bring it up here a little bit, then that's speeding things up. We don't need as much clip to finish off the whole entire video. Okay. So I kind of like that it's slowing down right, at this point on the timeline here. But if I did want to change that, then I can use the option click here, and I can move where that keyframe hits. And notice in my program window, I can actually see where that keyframe's going. So I can say, all right, we want the snack just off the screen. Her ears wide up. There we go. Now that's when it's going to start to slow down, as soon as this is in the air up here. So watch this, and there's the slow motion. I could slow it down closer, but nice to see the fall here. All right, other things we can do, because this is sort of abrupt, that it goes from one speed to the next, is this little guy right here where the keyframe is. We can stretch this, grab one side or the other. I'm going to grab the side, and as I do that, what you see is that it's going to pan down, so it's going to gradually change the speed. And then this little handle comes up too, so we can make it a smoother transition or not. So we have acceleration, deceleration happening here. So there we have it slowing down up until this point. And if we watch that from the beginning, here we go. So they had a slowing down. There you go. That's quite a few things you can do as far as time remapping in Premiere. And the next thing we'll look at is After Effects. So see you in After Effects. All right, now we are in After Effects. And here's another little video I shot of my dog running to go get the ball. Here it is as it was shot with my iPhone. As you can see, she goes way off into the distance. She's as small as that little pebble is in front of the camera. And like a good dog, she's bringing it back. Okay, so let's look at playing around with the speed of this little video, which can be found on my website at brandonberman.com. Alright, so it's already loaded up into a composition, so we can just start to work with it right away. The thing about I want to keep referring back to is the graph editor. So if we look at this clip right now, and I control click on it and go to time, I can do a time stretch. So if I do a time stretch, we can now change this to be say 100. We could change it to be 200%, right, which should double the length of this. If I change it to 50%, that would be half the speed. And I click OK. And now when I start to watch this, it should be in slow motion. We should know pretty quickly once we see the ball start to come down. There it is. Okay. And so if we look at this frame by frame, which is by going page up and page down, and I'll zoom in enough to where we are looking actually at frames. And using the page up, you can see that the frames are doubled. So when I go 1, 2, you can see there are 2 frames that have the same picture, and that's how we slowed this down, is actually by duplicating the frames. Well, we can do some other stuff here to improve that. Looks, it didn't look too bad as far as slow motion, but you can also experiment with this guy right here, frame blend. So if I enable that, and then enable frame blending for all layers that have that switch turned on, I turn that on. Now you see that there's a kind of a blending that's happening there. So let's take a look at that. See that this may or may not be the effect that you want here with this one. So but you can definitely see the difference there with this ball example. Now you could also enable a blur as well, so we could have the motion blur turned on here, and we turn it on for all. So now let's see what we get. So there's a little bit of a blur. You can still see even a little bit more of a remnants behind with this. So wondering what this looks like at when when we run it. Let's take a quick peek. So that may or may not be the effect that you're looking for. Right over here, you click frame blend again, then you get this other line, and now that'll give us a little difference. This is actually going to try to interpolate in between frames a little bit more. So let's take a look at this page by page or frame by frame. That looks, you can see a little bit of the distortion right there. You see that, where it's actually, you can see some distortion, so you can get some on, you know, especially over here in the shadow. Things can sometimes look, or the ball right now looks pretty warped, as you can see. So warping can happen if you choose that. So, but there's a few different ways of looking at working with speed there. Let's look at another way. So we'll go ahead and undo this. I'll just reset the layer just in case there's anything I might have missed. So we should be back to our normal. And another quick check at the ball in the. Yep, sure enough, they're at one frame each. There's a movement at every single frame. You can see that. So that's where we started. Okay. All right. Now let's look at time remap. So if I control click on this and go to time and then enable time remapping, okay, and we'll take a look at the whole clip here. Time remapping is set here. As I select time remap and take a quick peek at the graph editor, I see a diagonal line. Just a real quick thing that's going on here is that basically this has about 1,000, about 1,100 frames here in this whole little video. So the time remapping happens by, these are the frames, frame 0, they're the first frame all the way up to 1,100, and then the frame 0 all the way to 1,100 across time. So if we take the very first frame, and I'm going to take a peek, see here if I have, yeah, I had trimmed this before. So I'm actually going to start over, just do a fresh one so you see it. And here's the long run movie. Alright. And it's very beginning. We'll go ahead and bump that to the beginning. Alright. Now when we look, now we'll go ahead and reset time remapping and take a look at the graph. There we go. I can see the 0 that way. Before I had trimmed, so we were really seeing it starting, you know, about this area right here. So there's the 0 point. So with the playhead at the very 0 point, that's when I have the ball in my hand. I haven't even thrown it. So what I can do is if I remapped 0 and I brought it up, you can see I can bring it all the way up to where the dog is already running after it. See, this is just changing that 0 time. So I'm actually cutting stuff out there. Okay. So we'll keep referring back to this graph so you can kind of get an idea, but the frames get remapped this way, and it'll start to make more sense as we go along. Okay, back to where we were. Looking at time remap, we've got keyframes that are set at the beginning and at the end, and right now, as we saw, it's a constant speed. So this diagonal, has it that at frame 10, we'll be at frame 10. At frame 100, we'll be at a frame 100, and that's constant speed. So let's say that maybe the ball's going out, it comes back, the dog runs, and then the dog gets to maybe about here, and then at this point I want to have slow motion. So I'm going to go ahead and add a keyframe here. And so we have a keyframe from here to here. Add that keyframe again, and from here to here. So from here to the end. So nothing's going to happen now if I play. It just plays just fine. But if I take this keyframe right here and move it over to the left, that'll crunch the time. A quick peek back to the graph editor. You see we've added keyframes here, but that's about it. I go over here. Now I'll move this keyframe all the way over here to the left like so, and look at the graph editor. You'll see that we have this really steep hill here, which means that it's going to go from 0 to 681 frames very quickly, very fast at 100, basically what's remapped to 150 frames. So it's going to go very fast, and then it's going to slow way down. Okay, let's take a quick peek at that. Right now I'm doing the rendering. But you can see it even in the render there. That's where we get slow motion. Okay, that's good enough. Let's actually just see. Very fast. Zoom, zoom. The dog is zooming, and then all of a sudden, bam, slow motion. Okay, pretty cool. So let's see what else we can do with this. If we from here, you can keep moving or keep adding keyframes, but let's get into the graph editor. So here we are in the graph editor, and here are those keyframes again. We can work with those. We've got a pretty quick change here from this speed to this speed. So if I hold down the Option or Alt key and click on this keyframe, I can change it to a Bezier. So now we can have more of an arc, and we can change the speed. Now notice if I tip it down like so, what are we going to have happen here is that it's going to, it's speeding up right here. It's starting to slow down. It stops at this point. It actually starts to go in reverse at this point because the future keyframes are being remapped to previous keyframes. So if we take a look at just this little bit, you'll see the dog's going to go. Dog's going to start to come back and go in reverse. And slow down and eventually come back again. So here we are. You can see as it's rendering, now she's coming back in very slow motion. Okay, so just a quick view on that. Very fast, the dog goes. Oh, reverse, and you can see where it's going. And at some point it stops and we come forward. Okay, so you can have a lot of fun with this and do a lot of cool effects by changing these. I just clicked on the G key to get at the pen tool, or you can select the pen tool from the tool area, and then you can add keyframes. So we can continue to just modify this. Now I'm just getting silly here, making her run back and forth. As you'll see, she's going to run back and forth. And we'll just see what that looks like just for fun. Then Speedy Gonzalez, then back, forth, back, and gone. Okay, oh, wait, one more time. And you can see you can have a lot of fun, especially with something like an action film or working with skiing or snowboarding or some sort of motocross or something really cool like that. You could have some pretty cool effects where you stop motion in the air or slow things down or even go in reverse. So have fun with that.